you've arrived at the talk from Diversity and Ability. We are a social enterprise that works in the disability and diversity and inclusion world, where we are trying to create authentic inclusion in the workplace and improve society as a whole. We're going to be speaking to you about belonging with my colleague, Atif Choudhury. And do you want to go to the next slide? Lovely, thank you. Atif is the chief exec and co-founder of Diversity and Ability. And my name is Emma Turner. I'm the Partnerships and Outreach Lead. We're a multi-award-winning disabled-led social enterprise, and we support organisations as well as individuals. But you'll learn more about that as Atif speaks. So shall I hand over to you, Atif?
Yeah, thanks, Emma, and hello and welcome, everybody. Yeah, as Emma said, we're going to be talking about belonging and inclusion, and really going to the hearts of the values of what this summit's about, and how we can make sure that most people are part of something progressive for tomorrow's cultures and tomorrow's companies. And really, what would happen? Where would we be if we didn't have the kind of inclusive thinking that we deserve? And how many folks would we actually miss if they weren't part of that belonging agenda? So I'm just going to hand over to a little video just to watch over, and I hope you find it enjoyable, but also I hope it reaches out to you in a really positive way.
Congratulations on making the top 100 diverse-ish companies for 2019.
Thank you.
So this year you've announced that diversity is at the heart of your brand agenda. How does that address disability?
That's a terrific question. And the thing is, I think this is all about inclusivity. Yeah. So this year, for instance, Chris, we sponsored a float at the Gay Parade. So we're completely supportive currently of all the LGBT, the QI. There's more letters, I know, and I always forget them.
It does change all the time.
We believe in marketing to everyone. We don't want to single out disabled people for special treatment, because that's, they're too valuable.
So you don't market to anyone specifically?
We do. We do to everyone who fits in with the core brand message, which is as much about inclusion as it is about embracing the future.
La diversité est essentielle dans notre groupe. Nous avons fait réaliser une fresque magnifique sur le mur de la cantine qui célèbre, et je pense que ça va vous plaire, l'émancipation des Noirs.
I just wondered, what with your reputation as being a company with diversity very much a part of your brand ethos, whether you've ever considered a range of clothing for disabled people?
We're a high fashion brand for those with high disposable incomes. So disability isn't really an obvious choice for us. I mean, we love disabled people. So we're really active in helping and supporting other companies within this sector to solve that problem. Thanks for asking.
And what about disability in the workplace? Do you have any disabled employees?
Oh, yes. In fact, just stop the cameras for a second.
Would you say that the makeup of your company workforce is reflective of the percentage of people with disabilities of working age in this country?
Disability is something we feel is very important in this business going forward. I think 2019 is going to be an exciting year to be disabled.
Yeah. So this is Bill. He's paraplegic, isn't that right, Sharon? And you're on our diversity page on our website, aren't you, Bill?
Yes, I'm the only one currently.
Tremendous addition to the team.
Yeah, disability is something that we are committed to investing in very soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
When?
Le tout est de trouver le moment le plus opportun. 2019 est déjà consacré à célébrer la femme, l'avenir est féminin et tout ça.
Because 2019 is earmarked for BAME, BAME. It's an important cause and it means a lot to me personally.
2020?
Ice caps.
2021?
Mindfulness. Because...
Do you have a year in mind for people with disabilities?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, just watch this space. That's what I can say. So...
Yeah.
Right, that was a video from the Valuable 500, which I really hope you enjoyed, and it raises some questions. And really, I hope it gets to the heart of what this talk is about. Diversity is about counting people, of course it is, but inclusion is about insisting they count. And so it's asking us all the time, are we being diverse-ish? Are we kind of tinkering on the edge of it? And if we are, then I suppose we could carry on as we're doing, as often many companies do. But it's incredible what we might miss. And building that authentic bridge that says, look, we want to know what we're missing is a start. And I think that's what this talk's really about. What does it mean? An authentic sense of belonging at work. What does that mean? And how do we create the belonging? It's a big piece. And diversity and ability, as Emma has said, is there to try and provide support around that. We're based here in Brighton, and we've been doing that for quite a few years. But it's just figuring out, what is it to me, to you as a value as well, as a person and an individual work, rather than just being the CEO who controls that. Asking yourselves, what do you do in your own work and your own values at home that belong also at work? Inclusion, as a start, it keeping it individual, making sure that everyone feels included and supported. Above all, anticipate. We anticipate that people will need to feel welcomed, that they are going to come with differences. But they might not share that with you, and they may have good reasons not to. They may come from class barriers and cultural barriers. They may not share the diversity that they really need support around. And why should they? And so it's just asking, how do you create an anticipatory welcome for your organization that gets people excited to share with you? And I suppose the real question at heart is, what happens when they don't? And what do we lose in that? I'm just going to take us on a bit of a time machine now, because it's easy to be here at this point in time and say, well, yeah, we will do that. But do we? Are we ready to be thinking about the folks who don't really unmask, who don't really share the things they need to? And what would have happened yesterday? So let's go in this time machine and have a little think about that. So these are comments that you can put on Slack and on the YouTube channel as well, which you're really invited to do that as well. And let's hope this is as engaging as it can be whilst we're doing it online. Anyone know what this is? You don't recognize that? I think some of you might not be sure, some of you can guess. Would you guess that it's the very first light bulb? It's the very first light bulb ever made. It's Thomas Edison's light bulb. Would you know, for example, that Thomas Edison was a diabetic, that he was deaf, that he lived in a world full of candles, mostly through ideas where people thought this wasn't necessary. We won't need this. Yet where would we be today if a disabled person hadn't come along and decided we're going to do it anyway? Belonging, look at this. Anyone recognize what that might be? Some of you might know. Please do put your questions on the YouTube. But I'm really curious as to how many people really know what that machine is. I'll have a think about it for a second, but I'll also tell you. Some people come across it and might guess, and often I hear people guess that it's the Enigma machine, but it's not. It's actually the machine called Christopher, and it was built, rightly so, by Alan Turing. And we're going to watch a world where Alan Turing is on the new £50 notes as a year ahead. That's fantastic. It's really something. But this machine is really what broke and saved a major part of World War for the Allies. It's so significant that it deserves all of us to take a breath and look at and think of the ingenuity behind it. But also what the ingenuity behind Alan Turing himself. Yes, he was famously autistic, but how many of us knew that he didn't feel like he belonged at school, that he was tortured for it, for being autistic, for being different, and for being gay? He sadly took his own life as a result of being castrated. It's painful to imagine the lack of belonging that Alan Turing went through, the isolation he went through, and yet we all owe Alan Turing's difference a huge debt. This is a picture that some of you, I'm curious as to how many people know and can quickly type in who that is. I suspect some will, but I don't expect many in this day and age. But I'm wondering. I'll go back to why that's important in a second, but can anyone guess who that is? Yeah, of course you can. It's very easy to say, that's Frida Kahlo. But how many of us would also know that Frida Kahlo herself was famously not recognized for painting? But the person was her partner, Diego Rivera. He was famous for his murals. And now I'm living in a time when people won't necessarily know who he is, but they certainly know who Frida is. But would you know that Frida Kahlo had a severe back injury, that her painting took place during that period? Would you know that she dealt with polio her whole life? And part of that was made her work so strong. Where would we be without Frida Kahlo and her vision? Some of you, I'm sure, would recognize that amongst you. It's the very first machine it's the machine Lucy. Steve Jobs had really went on to create a graphic designer. At best, he was really studying calligraphy, not the most technical-minded person, yet gives us the machine we use every day. Steve Jobs' wonder, to a large extent, was his ability to have these strong visions. He was a dyslexic guy, was able to really understand the importance of graphics and calligraphy rather than programming. To a large extent, it changed the world. And I guess it's bringing us more to a closer point of where we're at now. I'm sure some of you recognize this sign, and I feel comfortable shouting out what it is. And yeah, of course, it's Greta Thunberg's sign. But beyond that, it's also the sign written by a young girl who right now, is changing the thinking in the Northern Hemisphere. Right now, we've watched as the years gone on, where she shamed a US president. Frankly, probably one who deserves it. But the point I'm making is, Greta Thunberg, 2 years ago, she couldn't make eye contact with people. 3 years ago, she's been bullied by teachers as well as classmates. She has impacted around an eating disorder. Her difference was so strong that we could have all lost her. And yet here we are watching this difference and this deservedness change because it seeks belonging. It demands it. And it took time for that to happen. And the question we're asking ourselves is, if we don't anticipate that, if we only just join the stories of people who become famous and wish we were with them before they were famous, then we're never going to get it right. We're always going to be chasing that. And we're always going to be saying these people are famous despite their differences. When it's because of them that's given us the ingenuity that we all deserve. The benefits of an anticipatory approach is strong. It's hard to give justice to that in just a short video, but it's just important to think about what is it that it unlocks and where would we be without it, about the very stories that had to fight so hard to get there. It's our job to look at the Greta Thunbergs and the Steve Jobs and the Frida Kahlos that are closer to home. It's our job to look at where they are struggling in interview processes, where they don't make eye contact, but they deserve to be here anyway. And what do we do to normalize that difference? What do we do to make sure we're not being diverse-ish? There's an awful lot we can do here about authenticity and belonging. It needs strength, it needs confidence, and we're here to help you do that. But likewise, there's lots of organizations doing it all the time. Technology plays a big role in helping that, but it's not alone. It's a human-centered approach to a human-centered need, and it will always be that. So it's making sure, how do we change the attitudes to get people more excited about the differences they live with every day? And how do we get to understand that we all deserve to be part of that increased confidence and that increased inclusion? I'm going to hand over back to Emma now, just to talk about some of the head cases, really. There's a heart story, which I hope I've sort of landed well with you. But just have a think about, what is the head case around this? And there is one. And the true strength of this is going to be a head and heart working together, where there's a business case for inclusion and diversity. Emma, over to you.
Thank you. So the business case is absolutely well documented, and I'm not going to go through every single bullet point on this slide because you'll be able to read it in your own time, but it's absolute nailed down and very easy to find the business case. You only need to Google diversity and inclusion, and McKinsey or Forbes or Deloitte will give you a whole tranche of research and proof that the business case is there to be diverse and inclusive in your workplace. But I think the key takeaway that I'd like to give you is that it's not just about the positive change and positive impact it can have on your business, that if you're being diverse and inclusive, but actually equally as important, or if not more, is the damage it can do to your business if you're not being diverse and inclusive. And I think that's a really powerful message that I would be keen to share with you. The talent and creative side of it, I think, is absolutely essential for you in your industry, in the creative industries. if you look at the higher education sector, the percentage of students that are disclosing a disability or learning difference is greatest in the creative subjects. And that is going to naturally flow and ripple into your industry and your sector. So if you're not being inclusive and diverse in the way in which you're recruiting and supporting your staff, then you're going to be missing out on a huge percentage of talent that have been trained in your subjects. The reflection of your customers is going to be going to have disappeared if you're not looking at reflecting them within your workforce. There's a whole massive job of innovation that's there in terms of the diversity of thought that difference brings to your organisation. Looking at the brand reputation, society is placing more and more importance on ethics and social impact, and they can see right through organisations that aren't being ethical or having strong values. They also want to see a workforce and an organisation that reflects their own self. If they don't see people like themselves in your organisation, then it could well mean they go elsewhere. But generally, the benefits for all is really important, in that being inclusive and removing barriers removes barriers for everybody and makes things inclusive for everybody. No one will have a negative impact or negative experience from having an inclusive environment. For example, as simple as having a ramp in a building. No one's going to kind of go, oh, what the hell's this ramp doing here? You know, this is not helpful to me. You know? But what's going to happen is people with buggies or with large luggage, and the ripple effect is really really strong. And so removing those barriers removes barriers for everybody. In terms of services we offer, you can see there we cover everything from organizational development and culture shift, right through to training your staff and workforce, right through to supporting individuals in their workplace with a specific holistic and people-based support that they need. So it's the whole umbrella in order to support you to become inclusive and diverse. So if you want to get in touch, I think there's a contacts slide. There we are. Lots of social media bits and bobs. Do engage with us. So it'd be great to engage with you all. And I really hope you enjoy the rest of the event online today. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll just sort of wrap up really just to say thank you for listening. We are here to support you as much as we can. Now more than ever, that's apparent and needed. And just to hope that all of us can stay safe while this is going on, and to reach out to the folks. And as I said, the theme of today is about belonging and anticipation. And as we progress in the next few weeks and the challenges ahead of us in the next few months, we really make that something that we all choose to be part of through this crisis and beyond it. So wishing you all to hopefully stay strong and safe as much as possible, and hope you've enjoyed this from both Emma and myself. But take care, everybody, and all the best.
Thank you.